But right now, I look forward to Fridays for this guy. His recommendations are, spot on. People love him. He can read about many of his opinions in the Marina Times. He also writes a column in the Marina Times about stuff that has nothing to do necessarily with movies or television. But when it comes to music, clubs, television, movies, he is about it all. He's the culture blaster, and he comes and goes on a rainbow. He's the great Michael Snyder. And Michael, I just want to note that it's great to have you in studio.
It's always fun to be here. I'm delighted to be here with my three broadcast mentors, Mark, Kim, and Albert. And then, my time's eaten up by Make Way for Ducklings. Thanks a million.
How dare you? Those are adorable ducklings. And you should cherish that as your opening act.
Hey,
come on.
Speaking of broadcast issues, how perfect that Tucker Carlson was, and I quote, dumped by Fox News since he's the living embodiment of the poop emoji. Dump him, everybody.
I get it, because he's dumped.
Yeah, I don't want to do that scatological humor. I don't want to work blue, Mark. I'm sorry.
Yeah, try to clean it up.
I will. We've got movies. Shall we get to them?
Yes, we should.
Okay, so we were talking about library books being overdue earlier. Although it was first published in the early 1970s, author Judy Blume's novel, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, truly beloved by women young and old, has never been made into a feature film until now.
Wow.
I haven't read it, but I want to tell you, I have my own book, Are You There, Satan? It's Me, Michael, but I haven't found a publisher. Anyway, as I understand it, again, having never read the book, it's a lighthearted look at the growing pains of Margaret Simon, prepubescent daughter of a Jewish man and a Christian woman from New York City in the 70s. When the nuclear family moves to the New Jersey suburbs. Okay.
Scatological, Tom says, is a ding word. That's right.
In the movie, which I found genuinely charming, Margaret and her new coterie of girlfriends in the burbs are starting to deal with the onset of puberty and other challenges, like crushes on boys. Daunted by it all, Margaret tries to get God's attention for help and guidance, although she's a little unsure who's out there, since her loving and patient parents, Father Herb, played by a genial Benny Safdie, actor, director, screenwriter, one of the guys behind Uncut Gems, by the way, which I loved.
Oh, sure.
And Mother Barbara, played by a luminous Rachel McAdams.
Luminous is a ding.
We all know the lovely Rachel McAdams.
Genial is a ding.
They have not raised her as a Jew or a Christian because of the mixed marriage. They figure you're going to decide sooner or later. Let's leave religion alone. Of course, her Jewish grandmother, Sylvia, played by none other than that scene thief, Kathy Bates, is eager to introduce Margaret to synagogue, and Margaret goes to a couple different churches her friends attend. Anyway, this wouldn't work without a sympathetic and believable actress as Margaret, so it's a good thing that she's played in very unaffected style by Abby Ryder Fortson, who, by the way, was Ant-Man's daughter in the first two Ant-Man movies. Be advised that I left my testosterone at home when I went to the screening of Are You There?
So it's really, it's for you think it's geared a little for women?
Yeah, I would say so, but I brought my delightful and thoughtful companion Jill along since she's part of the book's legion of fans. She felt that the cast was quite good and thought that director Kathy Freeman Craig, who also wrote the screenplay based on Blume's novel, did a lovely job, and I agree. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it was very well made, even, again, if I'm not the target audience. It was lovely. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is in theaters starting this weekend.
Yeah, well, that's great. Okay. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
When it comes to movies about the challenges of impending adulthood, and there's, that's kind of one of the themes here. Sure. I was absolutely blown away by a new indie feature film from the UK called Polite Society, written and directed by Nida Manzoor. Although she's directed TV in England, such as a couple recent Doctor Who episodes, this is her big screen directorial debut, and it's a doozy, jamming together genres including coming-of-age movies, heist movies, spy movies, Jane Austen-style period romances, and more. So, belying the title, Polite Society is an over-the-top action comedy that deals with the relationship between two British Pakistani sisters from London, Ria, who is a schoolgirl studying martial arts in hopes of becoming a stunt woman. Not your traditional,
Yeah, that's an odd life path.
And Lena is a punky art school dropout who gets engaged to a rich, pretty boy a-hole with a controlling mother. So the parents of Rhea and Lena are enthusiastic about the marriage, but Rhea believes that the wealthy family has a hidden agenda. So she wants to save her sister from the opulent traditional Muslim wedding and what looks to be a loveless union. And
Opulent is a ding word.
Rhea is going to need all of her amateur fighting skills to stop the nuptials, since the groom's mom has a security detail at her beck and call to make sure the couple get hitched without a hitch.
Nuptials is a ding word.
In addition to being an empowering look at the evolution of Eastern women in Western society and the struggle between tradition and modernity, Polite Society is just plain fun and funny with these wildly entertaining antics, crazy fight sequences, and very engaging, memorable performances by Priya Kansara as Rhea and Ritu Arya as Lena, as well as an accomplished supporting cast of actors and actresses from the UK and the Indian subcontinent. Manzoor is a genuine talent. I can't wait to see what she does next. Polite Society is in theaters.
Wow. Tom says modernity is a ding word.
I guess.
I wanted to add, so that's it's a little Bollywoodish.
There's definitely that flavor as
That's
well.
great. That's a good thing. Okay.
But it's a Western movie, with Western sensibilities, but it acknowledges, the ethnicities of the characters. Okay, so we seem to have a theme here. Speaking of the pain inherent in growing up.
Both have so far just in theaters, right? Not streaming.
Yes.
Okay.
We have another version of J.M. Barrie's classic novel, Peter Pan, from who else? Disney. In fact, this adaptation, entitled Peter Pan and Wendy, is the latest live-action redo of an animated Disney staple, although the filmmakers, led by director David Lowery, who, by the way, his retelling of the Arthurian legend, The Green Knight, was inspired. But the filmmakers seem to have dipped deeper into the source material while doing a little non-traditional updating and inclusion to spruce up the tale. It's still about Peter, the dashing boy who ran away to mystical Neverland so he'd never have to grow up, and the three darling kids, that's their surname, from turn of the previous century London, Wendy, the eldest, and her two brothers, top-hatted John and baby Michael, who fly away with Peter to Neverland, powered by the pixie dust of the fairy Tinkerbell. You know the story.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, they encounter Peter's nemesis, Captain Hook, and his crew of pirates, all sworn to eliminate Peter at Hook's behest. In a bit of refocusing and deeper contextualizing, Peter Pan and Wendy is as much about the fear of growing old as it is about kiddie swashbuckling and wish fulfillment. And to its credit, it looks spiffy and has the benefit of a game Jude Law as Hook, the always welcome Alan Tudyk and Molly Parker as Mr. and Mrs. Darling. Get this, Jim Gaffigan as Mr. Smee, and some non-obnoxious young actors as the Darling children, as Peter, Tinkerbell, the Lost Boys, and Indian Princess Tiger Lily. Alas, for all the effort, expense, and good intentions, Peter Pan and Wendy doesn't fly as high as it wants to. We have been here so many times.
It's just you think too many times to the well.
To its credit, it is, like I said, well crafted, and kids who have never seen the animated feature are probably going to be enthralled by it.
It has been a while since the animated feature, right?
And it's on Disney Plus, as is the animated feature, I think, which might be a better bet. But I still thought it had some merit. But man, we've been here so many times.
Joe Box says in the update, Tinkerbell is a meth dealer. Is that
Joe Box and Little Anthony?
That's not true.
That's not true. No. There's no street corner Tink here. Okay.
But Tom, who is the keeper of the ding, contextualizing is a ding word. I didn't even hear you say that. Behest is a ding word, he says, and inherent is a ding word.
All words I use in my regular conversations.
We're up to
Thank
speed.
you. Thank you.
Keep moving. Go
Okay,
ahead.
Big George Foreman, co-written and directed by George Tillman Jr., is a very conventional biopic about the two-time heavyweight champion with 2 decades between his championships. From 1974 to 1994, no championship, but, bookending with 2. And he grew up poor in Texas. He became a world-renowned boxer whose matches with Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali are the stuff of legend. This is kind of a Cliff's Notes movie with most of the significant beats from poverty spawned juvenile violence and crime, to his time in the Job Corps, to training in the sweet science, to an Olympic gold medal, world heavyweight title, wealth, hubris, the crucial Foreman Ali fight in Zaire. His marriage breaks down, his embrace of religion. He becomes a preacher, financial ruin, the comeback, and of course, there is acknowledgement of his later in life cash cow, the George Foreman grill. Look,
there's a lot there. That sounds kind of cool to take that ride.
But beat. It's somewhat elevated by Chris Davis as the adult Foreman. And of course, the great Forrest Whitaker as his boxing mentor, Doc Brodus. But the actors playing certain renowned figures in Foreman's life, such as Ali and broadcaster Howard Cosell, don't really look enough like those familiar faces to encourage suspension of disbelief. Big George Foreman is helped by Foreman being so beaten down as a kid at first and eventually so likable that you root for him. But compared to the cultural impact and drama of, say, Ali's life, it does pale. Big George Foreman is in theaters. I do have something I'm going to gush about.
Hubris is a ding word. Go ahead,
Of course
yo.
it is. Okay.
Real quick.
Sisu is my must-see of the week. It's an outrageously entertaining, seriously satisfying, ultra-violent 90-minute action movie set in Finland during 1944, the waning years of World War II. Just to give you a little idea of the tenor of the narrative, Sisu is a Finnish word that suggests the sort of desperate courage and balls-to-the-wall determination that manifests when all hope is lost. So at this juncture of the war, Finland and Moscow have signed an armistice that requires Finland to disarm the Nazis that had invaded and drive them out of Lapland. So in response, the Nazi forces have gone scorched earth. Meanwhile, in the wilderness, a man who had been an officer in the Finnish army decides to leave the war behind and prospect for gold. But he's more than a grizzled old prospector, as a group of retreating Nazis with a tank, a couple of jeeps, and a truck full of booze and captured Finnish women for pleasure will find out when the unit's greedy officers encounter the prospector and realize there might be financial benefits to taking him down. Needless to say, the old guy, played to perfection by Jorma Tommila, as the embodiment of Sisu, is determined. He's everything about Sisu that the word implies. So kudos to Finnish writer-director Jalmari Helander, who comes off here as Finland's own Quentin Tarantino. That is how spring-loaded and jaw-dropping Sisu is. It was out of control. It's in theaters, and it comes highly recommended by yours truly.
So it sounds like Sisu is the ranking officer on deck when it comes to films recommended this week by the Culture Blaster.
Well,
Sisu.
Yeah, unless
SISU for those listening.
Unless, you're among the gals who want to, embrace Are You There?
Right, I'll get to that.
Okay.
Big George Foreman, he said there's a lot to it, a lot of beats to that remarkable life. Some of the characters involved didn't really maybe look like people who we know very well. That's the problem with some of these biopics. You know some of these media figures too
And the execution is sort of perfunctory. Let's put it that way.
Perfunctory is a sick dang word. The Peter Pan and Wendy movie, the Disney film, it's called Peter Pan and Wendy, while chock full of really notable names like Jude Law and who are some other notable names?
Molly Parker and Alan Tudyk as the parents, Jim Gaffigan. Yeah.
So, but while it has all those people, you felt it was, like maybe one too many trips to the Peter Pan and Wendy well. So, but not awful, just didn't really hit the ball.
No.
Polite Society.
Loved it.
Bollywoodish kind of really a Western film, but with sort of a nod to the ethnicity associated with a Bollywood movie. Really loved it. Got some laughs and kind of funny situation.
It's crazy. And so I would say Polite Society and Sisu are my picks for the weekend. Quick note, if you haven't heard about or seen Jury Duty, which is on Freevee via Amazon, there are ads. It It slays.
I really have to see it. Somebody else recommended
Whitney
it to me,
Rice
too.
and James Marsden plays himself as someone who gets yanked into jury duty, but this is basically a faux reality TV show with one unknowing non-actor who is a civilian in the jury box, and I just thought it was very well done. And
really clever.
Kudos to my pal Whitney Rice, who plays the woman who's trying to sue someone for screwing up her business.
Jury duty. I have seen it, and as I say, I can't recommend it. I also will mention "Are You There, God?" It's Me, Margaret. That's a movie with Kathy Bates, and he liked that as well. Particularly geared for women, who we particularly feels may enjoy this. All those movies in theaters, except for Peter Pan and Wendy, which also is streaming on Disney Plus.
True.
Michael, love your visits. I wish we could linger longer, but sadly, we're over time.
Hey, it's okay by me.
Go Dubs.
As long as the Warriors win tonight, all is well with the world. Guys, we'll check you next week.
He comes and goes on a rainbow, the culture blaster. Michael Snyder, everyone. Yeah, right on. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.